all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I want to introduce our speaker, Maylana Mavromatis, who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area and focusing on protecting agents and brokers from non-disclosure lawsuits. And for the past 20 years, she's regularly consulted by brokers and real estate agents to property disclosures. She's a former president of the real estate section of the Bar Association of the East Bay, and she's a part of the Kids and Cancer Camp Agape in Northern California. So without further ado, I'm going to let her take it away.
Thank you, Malia. Good morning. It's good to see everybody. And Vanessa is here. Vanessa, say hello.
Good morning,
Opa.
everybody. Hi.
Opa, Vanessa.
Opa.
Opa. Okay, so there she is. Hi. Okay, so of course, everyone is very curious about the whole fire situation. And so what I'm going to do is start off by showing you, and I can share my screen, yeah? I'm going to show you a map that, well, let me skip this for a second and Skip will get there, but let me see. Opa. Here is a map. I'm trying. Okay, my computer and I are not friends. Do you see a map or not?
Yes.
You're all
okay. Okay, because yeah. See, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't like to share my screen. Number one, because when I'm in meetings, I know that when the speaker shares their screen, it's a great chance for me to take a nap. So I don't like to share the screen because I fear people will be sleeping. And the other reason is my computer and I aren't friends. So often I'm trying to show a map and it's showing like what I had for lunch yesterday. So like, you know, that's no fun. So here is just a little fire map showing the Silicon Valley area. As you see, very high fire hazard severity zone, the high fire, the very high fire, the wildland fire, state fire responsibility area. So I did just want to start with that and then share with you that, oh, wait, where is my email address? Well, you know what? I'm going to enter my email address in the chat box for you in just a second. And if you want me to send this to you, either put your email address into the chat box or somehow get it into the lovely hands of Vanessa. And she will get your email addresses to me so that I could send this to you. And Vanessa, talk about hot. There she is. Wave, Vanessa, say hello. She's hot. Well, it's warm. I mean, actually, we have some nicer weather coming, so it's not as hot. Thank goodness. All right, so here we go. What is this that I'm sharing with you? So this is a little summary of Assembly Bill 38. And I put this into the property ID reports at the end of 2019 because it was signed into law by the governor October of 2019. So I put this little summary into the property ID reports so that it's super easy. It breaks it down. What's going on? When is it happening? I broke it down for you. Effective January 1, effective January 1, effective July 1, effective July 1, effective July 1, 2025. So Assembly Bill 38 is still continuing to give us punches even until July 1 of 25. So this document is a handy little document for you. Of course, it's full of information, but this is a little 3-page document that's been in your property ID reports for almost 2 years. But what you can do with this is you can print it out and mail it. Imagine that. You actually print it out, write up a little handwritten note, put it in an envelope and mail it to your past clients. It gives you something to talk about with them. Like your note can say something like, hello, my friend, I have enclosed for you the information that is the new law in the state of California regarding the new fire retrofit. And I thought you might find this interesting. And let me know if you want me to come by. We can chat about it over some coffee. Do you want to sell your house? You know, And it's also something you can print out and put into, for example, you've got a listing right next door. You see the next door neighbor's lawn has piles of crap all over it. That's not okay. So you can print it out, put it in the mailbox. Hey, this is the new law in the state of California. Want to sell your house? You know, so this is a nice little marketing tool for you to use, and I will send that to you. Another little thing I want to share with you is okay, do you see what I see? It's teal green stuff.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, I have to stop bad mouthing this bad boy that's behaving today because it's behaving today. I'm pleasantly surprised. So this is the Max report, and I'm sharing this with you because a lot of you haven't seen this. So this is called what we call the one-page NHD, and it's so lovely. It's like little icons on your phone. You could just click on that, what you're interested in seeing. You know, as an example, you want to see, hey, with regard to the seismic information, the 10 sources of data have been analyzed, 2 of which are federal, 4 of which are state, 4 of which are local. I want to see what that says. Very interesting. All this information about this seismic information. Is it in the Alquist? No. Oh, according to the state of California, this property is within a 1/4 mile of a fault. Let's look at that. Hey now, it's close to the Cascade Fault. Well, that's good to know. So let's go back to this one-page NHD, and we're going to go where you find most interesting is view the forms. Here is the natural hazard disclosure statement. This property, if you see a very high fire hazard severity zone, no, but it is in the high fire hazard severity zone. So that we know is that the seller will be legally required to make disclosures on the new fire form. And I have to tell you, okay, I'm going to confess to you this. So this, if you were to go to California Civil Code section 1103.2, you would not find this language on the form. You would not. And the truth is, I violated this form because the form begs to be violated. And please, if you are offended, I invite you to contact the California legislature and report me for violating this form, because the form needs an update. Okay, it does. So I put this language in here so that you are not struggling through 80 pages to find the facts. But I am a repeat offender. You see where it says refer to report, refer to report, refer to report, refer to report. It says refer to report about 20 times on this page. And the reason, and if you were to go to the Civil Code 1103.2, Google it. You will not see refer to report anywhere on this page in the law. And I did that because about 10 years ago, I got a call from a buyer who said, I only got the one page. I closed escrow 2 months ago, and I only got the page I signed. But my next door neighbor showed me her property ID report, and she had like 75 pages, but I only had the one. So you guys need to send me the whole report. And I said, holy mackerel. That afternoon, I added refer to report repeatedly on this page so that the next time a buyer called and said, I only got the one page. I said, do you have the one page in front of you? She said, I do. And I said, do you see where it says refer to report repeatedly? She said, yeah, I do. And I said, do you typically sign documents that are directing you to refer to a report? Because this page doesn't give the whole story. She said, oh, I never wanted a buyer to come back and sue their agent because because for some reason, somehow, the buyer believes they did not receive the entire report. So there it is. So then we go down to the form. Okay. Yes, C.A.R. has a fire hardening form. Yes, PRDS has a form. Yes, other publishing companies have forms. but none of them are as sexy as mine. I'm telling you right now, mine is fantastic. Why? I'll share with you why. Right on the form itself, it is telling you what your seller needs to do. So if this property were not located in a high or very high fire hazard severity zone, the seller may wish to complete this form and this box would be checked for you. But as I shared with you, this property in San Jose is located in high or very high fire, requiring compliance with Assembly Bill 38. This form should be completed and a defensible space inspection with CAL FIRE should be scheduled. So it's checked, clearly telling the seller, you gotta do the form and an inspection should be booked. And how do you book an inspection? By clicking right here. Opa! I'm Greek. We holler opa. Forgive me. Okay. So right there, it'll tell you, welcome to the defensible space inspection request. It's telling you this is what you do. This is how you do it. I won't enter my address. However, I did enter another address because my property is not in compliance right now. So I didn't do that, but your seller definitely should do that. They click here, they book an inspection. Good luck in getting them to come over and have the house inspected before the close of escrow. Okay, good luck. In some cities, they're showing up fast. In other cities, if you're not cooking dinner for the fire department or you got a fire, they're not coming. Okay, good luck. So what I would recommend is this. Book the appointment. Even if the appointment is scheduled for November 22, and you know that escrow is going to close before September is done, escrow will be closed. Who cares? Book the appointment. Write a note to the buyer's agent. Seller has scheduled an inspection with CAL FIRE to inspect this property's compliance with vegetation management and defensible space. Please make sure your buyer keeps this appointment, right? Okay, so now we're moving on. Other reasons why my form is far more exciting and sexier than everyone else's is because look, throughout the form, the law is at your fingertips. So in the event you find yourself unable to sleep tonight, you can't fall asleep. So you're sitting there and you're tossing and turning and you're saying, what does California Civil Code section 1102.6F have to say? You click right here and the answer to your question will put you right to sleep. You will be sleeping like a baby. Look at that. The law is at your fingertips. You may not find it exciting. Personally, I think it's very exciting. But you may not, that's how we are. You find, sushi exciting. I like fish tacos. What do? This is how we think. You may not want to read this, but I find it fantastic. What does Government Code Section 51182 have to say? Aha, click right there. You'll be asleep in no time. What is Government Code, Public Resources Code Section 4291 all about? Click right there. You'll be sleeping in no time. So now we know these are the laws that became effective, Assembly Bill 38. If seller is aware of any of these features right here that make the home vulnerable to wildfire and flying embers, seller will check these boxes. If seller is not aware, then seller doesn't check these boxes. And again, this is only where the property is in very high fire or high fire, and a TDS is also required. Remember this, the real estate transfer disclosure statement, the natural hazard disclosure statement, and the fire safety home hardening form These 3 documents come with a 5-day right to terminate the contract. The number one question I'm getting from agents right now is this. My listing is in a fire zone. Yes, it's very high, but my seller doesn't want to complete the form. What do I do, Maylana? And I tell agents, well, you can remind your seller this. Seller, if you fail to complete this form, you are giving the buyer a golden opportunity to invoke their 5-day right to terminate the contract 2 days before the close of escrow. So you better get this done, seller, or you will let buyer waste your time, take the deposit, and go make an offer on that other property that just came on the market that's better than yours. How about that? Okay. There you go. What else? Seller does not check this box on item B unless seller has completed some new construction and has obtained a final inspection report that covers the property's compliance with defensible space and home hardening pursuant to the government code. So you don't need to worry about that, seller, unless you've all this applies. Here is where everybody's panties are in a bunch. Item C. Okay, the defensible space disclosure. Dum, dum, dum. Do not worry. You should never worry about this after today because hopefully all of your questions will be answered. So a seller is legally required, an owner is legally required to comply with state or local vegetation management laws. What does that mean? Almost every single county in the state of California has a defensible space and vegetation management ordinance that says this. Are you ready? Get your pens out. Clean the crap off your property. That's it. It's super simple. Get rid of the dead branches that are sitting on your property. Trim the trees. Rake the leaves. Pick up the pine needles. Mow the lawn. Okay. Almost every single county has a law that says clean up the crap. But almost none of them require you to get a document declaring that you have, in fact, cleaned up the crap. Okay? So pay attention, wake up. Here we go. A seller is required to complete 1 or 2. So seller is supposed to check either A or B of number 1 or A or B of number 2. Well, what does number 1 say? Number 1 says this property is located in an area where the local defensible space and vegetation management ordinances, wake up, require the owner of the property to provide documentation, to obtain documentation that the property is in compliance with the state or local vegetation management ordinances. But how do we know what this is? Ta-da, here it is. This is another reason why the property ID fire form is the sexiest of all. Right here, you click on it. The law is right there at your fingertips. And what does the Santa Clara County Defensible Space and Weed Abatement Program state? It says this: clean up the crap. That's what it says. It says, while voluntary compliance is the goal, property owners who do not comply with the minimum fire safety standards will have abatement performed by the county and will be billed for the work. What that means is this: if you don't clean up the crap, the county will do it for you, and they will not give you the homegirl discount. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg to mow your lawn when you could have gotten the 12-year-old from up the street who's charging $10. Do that. It's quicker, it's faster, you will comply with the law, right? Okay, what else does it say? It says this: vegetation must not exceed 6 inches in height at any time. That means you need to cut the grass, cut the weeds. If you've got weeds that are 3 feet high in your backyard, you are not in compliance with Santa Clara County's weed abatement and defensible space. What else does it say? You have to maintain vegetation, flammable vegetation, 30 feet around any structure is the defensible space requirement. What else does it say? It says you've got to clear the leaves, the pine needles, the debris from the roof and the gutters. Okay, now we go back to the form, right? View the fire safety, home hardening, and defensible space form. We just read the Santa Clara County defensible space. Nowhere does it say you need to obtain a document proving that you have complied with the clear the crap ordinance. Yes, it says clear the crap, but no, it does not say get a document proving that you have in fact cleared the crap. So you would direct your seller to number 2. This property is located in an area that has not enacted an ordinance requiring an owner of real property to obtain documentation stating that the property is in compliance. We saw it together. It's very clear. Clean the crap or we're going to come do it for you. But it doesn't say you are required to get a document. Therefore, seller would check either item A or item B. If by some miraculous event, the seller has obtained this unicorn document, the seller would check this box. Let me know if your seller has booked an appointment and they came during the escrow period and provided seller this unicorn document, okay? Chances are they're not going to show up in time. So your seller can check this box. A, buyer agrees to obtain defensible space compliance documentation pursuant to the state of California's requirements for defensible space and vegetation management within 1 year from the close of escrow. Ta-da! Okay. Does you got it? Does anyone have any questions? Please, because if you've got a question, I don't want you to leave this meeting unclear. I want you to feel very comfortable knowing you got it. If you don't want to ask the question now, then email me. And here is my email address. I have entered it into the chat box, and you can email me directly. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Yes. So does that apply to other counties or just Santa Clara?
Beautiful question. And thank you for that, Caroline. I will eat a Smartie in your honor for that good question. So what I shared with you is, all right, well, that's kind of a difficult, all right. Assembly Bill 38 applies to the entire state of California. But the Santa Clara County ordinance applies only to Santa Clara. I can pull up a report for a different county. Let me show you a report for a different county. All right. So here is This is Palm Springs. Okay, in Riverside County. And if you want to view the farms, you go all the way down. It's basically the same thing, but instead of having Santa Clara County, and the reason why that one had the county of Santa Clara was because that property was in the unincorporated Santa Clara County. This property is in the city of Palm Springs. So you would go there and it's got the city of Palm Springs vegetation management ordinance, because that's what applies to this specific address. So it's the form is active and alive and organic, and it changes depending on where the specific property that we've done the report for is located. So the state law applies to everybody in the state, but the city or county law is going to apply to you specifically in your jurisdiction. So the state law is a guideline. Some cities, as you just saw, the city of Palm Springs, it's longer than what the Santa Clara County law is. It's more restrictive. So in your if you were the owner of that house, you would have to comply with the more restrictive requirements of the city than the state requirements, which are going to be a little bit more broad. Does that make sense? Because the city firefighters are going to come and inspect your property, right? And if you wanted to get a permit, you're not going to go to Sacramento and go to the Capitol and say, I'd like to get a permit to add a new master bathroom. They're going to say, go home and do it in your own town. Do it with the planning department in your own town. You don't belong here. This is not the place, right? So yes, the local jurisdiction is the one that takes precedence. Ashley has a question. I'm sorry if you said this, I had to take a call. But is it accurate to say that most Bay Area counties do not yet have a requirement for inspection and compliance documentation? Ashley, you are correct. The majority of cities and counties right now have not yet caught up with Assembly Bill 38. They are in the process of updating their ordinances because the state of California put the cart before the horse in order to, shall we say, no pun intended, light a fire under the butts of every city and county to change their ordinance to require this documentation. Is the fire department the only one who can inspect? Excellent question. And here is a smarty for you, Chica Mori. Well, it's going to be somebody who has authority in fighting fires. So CAL FIRE, the local fire marshal, the local fire department. So I own a house in Placer County in the woods. And every year I get a nasty note that says, Maylana, you gotta clean up the crap, my friend. Get out there with a rake and rake up the leaves and the pine needles and the pine cones and trim this branch and do all this. They tell me every year. And they check these boxes of all these things that are wrong. And they tell me, you better clean up the crap before August 13, or we're going to clean the crap for you. And we're going to charge you for the work we did plus $500 for being a jerk, Maylana. Well, of course, every year I get out there with my rake and I get my children out there. We all clean it up. We get our garbage bags full of pine needles and leaves and branches. Lo and behold, they never give me that unicorn document that says, good job, Maylana, you cleaned up the property. So that is not in compliance with Assembly Bill 38. I still need to get the document. So I don't know yet if when they come and issue me this nasty note, if they're gonna come back and issue me a happy note. I hope they do, but I doubt it. I think I'm gonna have to like make that request in writing. I don't know. We'll see, right? We're learning. So it's CAL FIRE, it's the fire marshal, it's the fire captain. It's an individual who is brave enough to put themselves between the fire and your house, who has the authority to tell you if you have, in fact, sufficiently cleaned the crap. Do you guys have any questions? Do y'all get it? Are you experts now? Can you explain this to everyone? I hope so. Come on,
So I have a question.
please, Mike. Thank you.
So Melanie, that box that the seller checks on the fire hardening disclosure that says that the buyer will have 1 year to get documentation or to clean up his property. That really doesn't change the law, right? So,
That is the law.
well,
So the language that you see here is from the law. The seller must check one of these boxes.
right.
If the property is in high or very high fire, and it's 1 to 4 dwelling units, meaning the TDS applies. If it's a vacant land, the seller isn't required to check any of these boxes.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because the TDS doesn't apply to vacant land, does it?
Ah,
But
yeah.
your question is fantastic.
Well, because
So the seller would check one of these boxes. So
Mhm.
your question is, if the seller were to check 2A, buyer agrees to obtain this unicorn document, go on.
Mhm. So the particular instance I'm working with right now is a 75-acre parcel of land in Santa Clara County with a lot of oak trees on it, a lot of,
Well,
Like to
wow.
clean up.
Can I say congratulations to you?
well, yeah, well, these are all difficult transactions. So
Yeah.
it has a house on it and requires a TDS. 74 acres is pretty tough to clean up.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah, that's why your seller can check the box that buyer agrees to obtain
right,
defensible space compliance information. And let me just tell you this. I have a 400-year-old oak tree in my front yard that's about 15 feet from my house.
mhm.
That oak tree has more rights than I do.
Oh,
I
I
can't
agree.
touch that
Yeah.
oak tree. Yes, I can trim some of the branches, but I can't take it out. It's a
No.
very important oak tree.
I know you can't.
And
Okay.
if a buyer has the wherewithal to purchase 75 acres in Santa Clara County, oppa to your
Well-
buyer, I say congratulations. If you can afford, and that's the way the law views it, if you can afford to purchase 75 acres in Santa Clara County, you can afford to get a John Deere and ride around and clean up the crap on that 75 acres.
Well, you can't do it in the hill property. That's the tough part is there's really no way to clean that stuff
There
up.
there is a way. You hire goats.
No, you got to have it fenced in for that,
Well, the goat, you're very clever. I like you, but listen to this, Mike. The goat company that you hire, they come and they eat the goats. They come with their own fences.
I know they do. Yeah, portable.
So they will fence in the property and they will have their goats have at it. And it's a win-win situation because all that dead, dry crap gets removed and those goats get a yummy meal.
Right. And we had 14 acres done like that. It was $40,000. So, so the question I really had is this form, is that 1 year allowed in the law or this is the law? Huh?
Well, fantastic.
because-
Let's look at it together. Okay.
Because
So-
earlier you were talking about the fact that the seller needs to get a fire inspection, and good luck with getting it in time. But if there's no fire inspection, no documentation, and a year goes by and he calls for an inspection, you know, it could be in big trouble.
Well, that's okay. So that's the reason why I was stating that your buyer should, I mean, excuse me, your seller should book the appointment with CAL FIRE. And you, as a listing agent, you send some kind of addendum disclosure to the buyer's agent, stating
Yeah,
seller has booked an inspection with CAL FIRE for compliance with vegetation management. That inspection will take place November 22 of 21. Please make sure that buyer keeps this appointment, because on the fire form, buyer has agreed to obtain this documentation within 1 year from the close of escrow.
Right.
Now, let me tell you this. I'm sure that once escrow closes, seller is long gone.
yeah,
Seller doesn't care if buyer is in compliance or not.
right.
So who is going to enforce this agreement between the buyer and the seller? Because that's what it is. It's an agreement between you, the seller, Mike, and me, the buyer. Are
Mhm.
you going to come and say, Maylana, you know, it's 1 year from the close of escrow is happening tomorrow, and I don't see that you've complied, and you agreed with me that you would?
Right.
It's not going to happen.
So I met with the CAL FIRE captain.
Go,
and
Mike.
I said, so if you come out and do an inspection, how much time are you going to give the property owner to clean it up? And he said, generally 30 days. So that's, you know, it's a little bit of a conflict between what we know is really going to happen most of the time and what CAL FIRE expects. So if they do come out and do the inspection, this 1 year, you know, it just conflicts, and I don't know how that would happen, and I'm sure you don't know how it would happen yet either. But
Well, if they say you've got 30 days to clean it up,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, it's just confusing because and number one, let me tell you that CAL FIRE didn't know anything about what the new requirement was. They said our requirements are the same as they always have been. And when we do it, and so I got a copy of their inspection form with what it looks like, the form they use when they come out and do the inspection. And it's pretty generic. I mean, it doesn't give any time frames on it or anything like that. So I have a copy of it. I saved it. But, you know, everybody's not hooked together on this yet, is what I'm getting at.
no, and that's the truth, Mike. And that's, you know, sometimes in Sacramento, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. Okay. That
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
But you have to hand it to the state of California in that they are trying to bring awareness
Oh, yeah.
to every single person. You got to clean up the crap.
Yeah.
Your home and your family have a better chance of withstanding the fire season if you've cleaned the crap.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're talking about it right now, I'll tell you, I mean, my husband, as we speak, is in the backyard with a weed whacker trimming the weeds because my home still isn't in compliance, right? So, you know, I mean, I may not have been so on his butt to get the weeds gone in the backyard had it not been for Assembly Bill 38. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's got to happen. Honey, you got to do it. You got to do it. So he's out there, he's whacking, he's raking, he's bagging, he's doing it.
Yeah.
And it's because of this law.
Right.
Yes, it's a little bit burdensome. Yes, nobody understand it. Yes, it's like doing a crossword puzzle in Greek.
Yeah.
And I'm Greek, so
Yeah.
anyway.
So the thing is that 1 year, it's nice that it's in there, and it's nice it gives the buyer a year, but like you said, what's going to happen after that? Is anybody going to enforce that buyer-seller agreement? No.
Well,
You
you
know?
know,
And then,
what's gonna happen is buyer will know when they get that little nasty note from CAL FIRE, they've been put on notice about this.
Yeah.
I want to share a lawsuit with you, and it's a very important lawsuit. The case is called Field versus Century 21 Cloden Fornes. And Mr. and Mrs. Field wanted to buy a property, so they go with their agent to have a look. And they get there and they ask their agent, what are the boundaries of this property? It was a good sized property. And their agent said, the northern boundary is the street. The eastern boundary is this creek. The southern boundary is that over there, and the western boundary is this over here. Okay, fine. Mr. and Mrs. Field, happy as clams, buy the property. And then they learn, oh no, the boundaries of this property were substantially less than what their agent had described. 4 boring years later, for all the SpongeBob fans out there, the buyers brought their lawsuit. And the lawyers for the brokerage were stamping their feet and gnashing their teeth and hollering, no, judge, time out. No, the statute of limitations is 2 years. But these people sat around and waited 4 boring years to file their lawsuit. This case cannot go forward, Judge. What did the judge rule? The judge ruled this. When an agent makes a statement, not knowing if it's true, that statement is false, that's fraud. The 2-year statute of limitations does not apply in fraud cases. Why am I sharing this with you? I am sharing this with you because of the fact, where are we? Because over the years, I have heard, do you see my screen?
yeah,
Okay. Because I have heard buyers, agents say this to their clients. Oh, buyer for this property in San Jose, don't worry about the Cascade Fault. All of California is in an earthquake fault zone. That is a false statement. That's not true. All of California is not in an earthquake fault zone. When you make a statement like that, you open yourself up to liability. That's a false statement. It can be construed as fraud. So what do? I'll tell you what I would do. I would email this report to my buyer with these words that I will email to you if you want them. If you don't want them, I won't email them to you.
yeah, email it to me.
Hello, my wonderful buyer. Attached is the property ID natural hazard disclosure report for this property on Greystone Lane in San Jose. Please read it very carefully. If you have any questions about anything in this report, please call Property ID. Please call Maylana at Property ID. The phone number is 1-800, and this is critical, you type the phone number, 1-800-626-0106. They prepared this report for you. They are the most qualified to explain it. Review this report, and then I will send it to you in DocuSign or DigiSign or however it is you sign What that email does, and by the way, what does the E in email stand for? All the millennials out there, they're all shouting, it's electronic, right? No. For your purposes, the E in email is evidence, right? Evidence. When you write an email, you should write it for the recipient's lawyer to read, right? That email that you've just sent to your client is evidence of your intent to provide complete disclosure. It's evidence of your fiduciary duty. It's evidence that you have directed your client to the person most qualified to explain the report, because it's not you. You have not prepared the report. You should not explain it. Unless you've read the Alquist Priolo Earthquake Fault Zone Act of 1972, you should not be discussing faults with your clients. And it's evidence that you have directed your client to the person most qualified to explain it, and that you've reminded them, this is very important, you need to read it. So that is that. And do you have any more questions? Come on,
Well,
Mike, I know you've got a question. Go.
I got plenty of questions, but some of them are not worth asking.
Well,
You know, I like the property ID reports. I think they're one of the best that I see out there.
Opa! I'll eat
Yeah.
a Smartie in your honor, Mike. Thank you.
No, they're pretty comprehensive. Once in a while, I find something in them that looks like it's not accurate for that property.
Have you called?
No, but not.
Ah,
No, I haven't, but not very often. And when I do, it's something not as significant as other things. But the Mello-Roos taxes, do those ever get taken off of a property? They're permanent, aren't they?
no, they are not permanent. They do have expiration dates. Well, you know what? Let's see. Let me see. I actually, let me see. I don't know because I haven't checked this property, but let's see where the taxes are. Okay, so here's the taxes for this particular property.
Mhm.
There is Mello-Roos, it's $33.66, and you can actually do the future tax estimator here.
Oh,
I went to law school, so I wouldn't have to do math. So I'm not going to be calculating, because I mean, we can if you
yeah, no,
want, but
that's fine. But there is a way to find out when it expires?
of course you can. So here is, this is the Mello-Roos that affects this property.
Mhm,
There is a library,
mhm.
right? If you have questions, you can call here. It started in 2014. It will end in the year 2034. And these people pay $33.66.
Okay. I never noticed that expiration date on there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so you thought of everything, almost everything.
Well, I have been Property ID's lawyer for 23 years.
So you might know what you're doing now.
I think I do. That's why I invite you. I welcome you. Call me anytime. Don't call me on your divorces.
Well, I will. I never did that before because, well, frankly, I didn't know there was a contact person to call on there that really knew as much about it as you did. But
Well,
this guy-
ideally, Mike, you'll call the 800 number. Customer service will take your question. They will direct it to our research department, who will send me the information. And if I'm in a meeting like this with good people, the question will go to another attorney in the company to answer.
Okay, well, that's good. So
But you can always email me.
I'll do that first.
And I did enter my email address in the chat box.
Okay, and I wrote it down. That fire hardening law, though, is still very confusing for almost everybody.
I know. And Mike, don't explain it to your clients. Don't. You can either call Property ID and say, Okay, my buyer Bob's name is, call my buyer Bob back at his home, at his work, at his cell, and explain to him the fire hazard determination. Or you can email me, right? You have my email address now. Hello, Maylana.
Yeah.
I have CC'd my client on this email regarding this report at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. And by the way, if you have a report from another NHD company, please don't call me because I can't comment on those reports. I can only discuss the property ID reports for you. So you say, my client has a question about the cascade fault. Can you please provide information? Now, be careful what you wish for because I'm going to show you something. I had a buyer, excuse me, I had a listing agent. Can you see this map?
Yep.
I had a listing agent who ordered a property ID report and he said, why don't you just give a map like everybody else? And I said, well, because number one, it's not required by law. Number two, we want the buyer to ask for what they want and we'll give it to them. He said, I want the fault. I want a map showing the faults right now. And I said, Joe, listen up. If I give you this map, you are going to have to disclose it. Once you see it, it becomes your actual knowledge and you're going to have to put it in the disclosure package. He said, yeah, okay, I know, I want it. So I sent it to him. He immediately called me up and said, can you delete this? I don't want this map. I said, I'm sorry. You asked me to prepare it. We did. Of course, there's no charge for it, but the charge you get is you have to disclose this map. So property ID isn't going to provide you a little cartoon character map that says, don't rely on this map.
Yeah.
When we create a map for you, it's going to be like this. It's going to be the truth and it might be ugly. So know what you're asking for. All right.
Yeah, I can see that'd be important.
Yeah. So you don't want to ask for maps unless the buyer says, I want to see where is the fault.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll create a map that shows the property and the fault.
Yeah.
Or as you saw, the many faults near this property. But remember this, guys, don't be frightened. It's our faults that make California the most beautiful state in the country.
Well, that's true. You know,
Well, thank you. I see Malia has come on.
Yes, thank you so much, Maylana, for this really, really great information and a really great session. It was super interesting and I think it really kept everyone engaged. So we truly appreciate that. I have everyone's emails in the chat. So what I'll do is I'll just download and save it and send it over to both Maylana and Vanessa. And with any future communications, they'll have all of your emails. And then as usual, this will be posted to the SCORE website. So if you missed anything, you can feel free to rewind.